Hello, everyone. Lauren Culp here, publisher and CEO at CUInsight.com, and I am bringing you a 3 questions video interview today with a special guest from Alacriti. Joining me is Mark Majeske, the SVP of Faster Payments, and isn't that something we would all want? Super excited to have Mark here. Thanks so much for taking the time, Mark.
Great, thanks, Lauren. I appreciate it. Glad to be here.
Awesome. Well, let's dive in. The first question I have for you, so we're talking payments today. We're talking real-time payments. My first question for you is, when it comes to real-time payments, what are those trends that you're seeing in the marketplace right now?
Yeah, there are a lot of trends. One of them is confusion. There's a lot of confusion in the marketplace. And I mean, just think about how faster payments are explained. Or what names you can give them: near real-time, faster payments, instant payments. That alone is confusing. Then adding to the fact that you have RTP, soon to be FedNow, Visa Direct, and Zelle in the marketplace, it's even more confusing. The great news is that we have a lot of options, and the bad news is we have a lot of options. So I think that banks and credit unions particularly are somewhat confused. And the way that I look at and try to to work my way through that confusion is that I consider rails to be tools. So what I encourage people to do is look at your member base, get an idea of what they're interested in doing, and then build a solution around that, and then go shopping for rails. A lot of credit unions are going out saying, you know, I want to go out, I want to participate in faster payments, but at the same time, they're saying, which rail, singular, should I choose? And that's a difficult question to ask unless you know exactly what you're trying to build. Some of the other trends I'm seeing are fraud systems. A lot of credit unions are saying, yes, I want to get into the faster payment space, but when they start to look at their fraud systems, they find that they're not really built for real time. They need to be tuned somewhat for 24/7 transactions. So that's something that they don't necessarily consider at the onslaught, and it's a consideration they have to take later. The other third, and I'll try and be brief, is that the trend towards paying for expedited payments. You know, everyone's assuming that they all have to be free. That's not necessarily true anymore. When you get into a situation like what PayPal is doing, enabling me to move money on Saturday from my PayPal account to my bank or credit union, they are charging for that transaction. The customer realizes the value of that, and they're willing to pay for it. So those are some of the trends that I'm seeing in the marketplace, at least today. And you'll again, as more banks get into the faster payments arena, we'll start to see more trends. But right now, that's a good snapshot.
Absolutely. Well, and to help some of these credit unions that maybe are watching today, to help alleviate some of the confusion, what would you recommend for credit unions? Would you recommend the FedNow service, or would you recommend the RTP network?
It's a good question. I think that, first of all, FedNow is not available yet.
Right.
But the second thing is this: each one is in a different stage of development. So when we look at RTP, it's been out since 2017. It's now currently offered with at 60% of US DDAs. So it's for the most term, it's established and growing. I think over time we'll start to see capabilities like request for payment start to be used, right? And once that happens, it's a game changer. And that was part of the original design of RTP, to really go out and facilitate transactions first rudimentary, you'll at a rudimentary level, and then grow and have additional use cases. So the fact of the matter is, yes, RTP is more mature. FedNow, right? Not even offered yet. There will be a time when they'll have to gain ubiquity. So much like RTP did, in the beginning in 2017, my feeling is when FedNow is launching sometime next year, you're going to have a period of time where you're going to have to wait for ubiquity. The other thing is, both of those systems are not interoperable. That means that you can't necessarily, even when both are in production, you cannot send a RTP transaction and received by a FedNow bank. And so the answer to your question, the long answer to your question is this: you're going to need both. I don't think there's any way of getting around it. And one of the things that we do at Alacriti with our product, with Cosmos, is enable you to have both in the same infrastructure. So I think that's important. But I'm sorry I answered your question in a very long about way, but I would say that the credit unions need both.
Absolutely. Well, and I know some credit unions might even be waiting for the FedNow service to even move forward with real-time payments. So what would you say to those credit unions?
Very simply put, don't do that. And the reason, no, but honestly, the reason is this. RTP is in the marketplace. We're starting to see applications, use cases where your members will be able to use them, even though the credit union is not offering a service. So they're out, your members are out there using PayPal, they're using other services, they use payroll from their employer. What's happening is they're going to start to be asked, how, does your bank or what does your credit union accept faster payments? And if the answer is no, then the employee, your member, cannot take advantage of that. So you don't want to have a situation where there's a lag, where your member might say, hey, you know what, I want to take advantage of this new service that my employer is offering through expedited payroll, but I can't because I bank here, right? So you don't want that situation. Obviously, RTP more mature. The other thing is it enables the credit union to get to do that first implementation into real-time payments. So operationally, from liquidity management, from fraud, it gives the credit union a chance to do that initial implementation, so that when FedNow does come out, the second implementation is much more easier and the institution is much more familiar with the process.
Absolutely. All right. Well, you heard it here, everybody. If you're waiting for the FedNow service to move forward with real-time payments, don't do that. So great information. Mark, as we wrap up the conversation, I'm curious, are there any maybe final thoughts that you would share with the audience or final asks of our listeners today?
Yeah, I would just say, look, it is a confusing environment. And if you have questions, feel free to reach out to us, because from my perspective, a third-party provider, a fintech should be your partner. And so we want to be a partner in the process. We understand there's a lot to learn, and we're here to guide you. So please feel free to reach out anytime.
Wonderful. And I know we actually have an upcoming webinar that you'll be presenting on the FedNow service. So on July 27th, we'll link to that in the post here, and we'll also link to contact information for Mark and his team for anyone who would like to learn more about the stuff that Alacriti offers about real-time payments. So much good information that we discussed here today. Mark, thank you so much for your time. I know I learned a thing or two, and I'm sure our audience did as well. So thanks so much and take care.
Great, Lauren. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Take care.